All right, so welcome everybody. My name is Cheryl Gruber and I am the middle school principal here at the American School of Dubai. And we are so excited to be welcoming our grade 5 families coming into the middle school for our next school year. And so this is just always such a joyful event. And it is one that it's just really so unfortunate that it's on Zoom and that I can't see your faces and you can't see each other's faces, because this is where I like you all to look around and introduce you to your support group for the next 3 years. The middle school is just such a special place, and we're so excited that you're here. Some of you are middle school experts. You've had 1 or 2 children who've gone through the middle school, whether it's here at ASD or somewhere else, and so you're ready for the wild ride that is middle school. And some of you, this is your first child in middle school and you're wondering what it's all about. So we're just here. I have a wonderful panel joining me today, and you'll see that you are joined by a great group of panelists, and they will all introduce themselves as they're here. A great group of experts to get you started on the middle school journey here at the American School of Dubai. A lot of information will be shared this morning, but please do know that the information is also repeated. You'll be getting sent an email after this webinar with some details. Webinar is recorded, of course, so you can always watch it later, and your children have received information, and we provide you with some email addresses. So lots of opportunities to get information, and we will take questions at the end. So if you can put your questions in the Q&A box throughout, and then we'll take those questions at the end of the webinar. So just want to start off with our middle school office team. You'll see that there's middle school principal, myself, and then we have Mr. Corey Willey, who's our associate principal, who you'll be hearing from today, and then Miss Diala, our amazing administrative assistant, and you might already have some contact with her. She's the one who is answering our phones and responding to emails in the middle school office. We also have our counseling team, and one amazing hallmark of our middle school here is that the counselors go through the progression with the students in the middle school. So for example, Miss Knox this year is the grade 8 counselor, but next year she'll be looping into grade 6, and then so she will be your child's counselor all the way through their middle school experience. And so the counselors do change year by year. So this is what the team will look like. So this year, Miss Beck is the grade 6 counselor, but she moves up with the grade 7s. And then again, we have Miss Bina, our wonderful counseling assistant, who you will also have interaction with. And when you're emailing the counseling department, she is the person with all of the information who is helping to guide you through the process. So just like in the elementary school at ASD, we have the same mission and core values. And we really believe that it is our duty as a middle school to fulfill this wonderful mission of challenging and inspiring each student to achieve their dreams. This is my first year at the American School of Dubai, and I have to tell you that that line of the mission statement was just so enticing to me. And finding that it really is true once you get here, that this really is what we're working on, that we really do want students to figure out who they are, especially in the middle school, where that's really the prime time that they're doing this, achieving their dreams, becoming passionate learners, adapting to this rapidly changing world. It's overused by now, but my gosh, we've all adapted and shown that resilience this year, haven't we? And also the core values, right? With being able to be compassionate for those around us. First core value that we have, and the one that we really do take the most seriously. It's at the heart of everything we do in the middle school. Again, if we were in person, I would have this be a turn and talk, but perhaps you're watching this with someone else, or perhaps you're watching it with your own child. If you are watching this with someone else, I'd love you to take just a moment first. This you can do whether you're on your own or with someone else, and reflect on which of these attributes of our student profile is something that you think really fits your child, or something you really aspire to for your child. Just reflect on that for a moment. And then if you have someone that you're watching this with, turn and talk to that person. Perhaps it's the person who is your partner in raising your child, and you can talk about your hopes and dreams for your child. So think about which one of these is something that you really hope to see your child flourish and grow in their middle school time. Again, the student profile at ASD doesn't change. It is the same from our little ones in the ELC all the way through our grade 12s who are graduating. But we all know that the students change a lot during that time. And there are different times where you have different dreams and visions for them and where you see different parts of them come out. So something that we're always going back to and we're always grounded in through that whole school-wide journey is the student profile. And our middle school philosophy. Again, a lot of words are highlighted here. I'm not going to read this entire philosophy statement for you, but I think really thinking about things like intellectual growth, diverse needs, all the different aspects of a child that we're helping to develop in the middle school, that we have role models. I think that's something that's really important to highlight. Our middle school educators are true middle school educators at the American School of Dubai. We're not people who kind of wanted to teach high school or kind of wanted to teach middle school or kind of wanted to teach elementary school. No, we are people who are passionate about the middle school, and you'll see that. And maybe a lot of you have already seen that, but those of you that have not seen it yet are in for a real treat. This group of dedicated professionals is here to support you and your child throughout the whole journey. And the middle school mindset, having trust in one another and trusting the process. We love this quote here: kids need the space to fail. And that seems like a pretty bold statement for a school, but really it's true. And again, the middle school is a place where students are becoming more independent, and we really do want to give them a lot of opportunity to fail, to learn, to grow, and pick themselves back up. And with that, I'll hand it over to Dr. Corey Willey.
Hi, everyone. Great to see some familiar faces on the participants list. For those of you who don't know me, this is my 4th year at ASD. Love it here. And one thing that I'm really proud of in our middle school is that we stay true to that philosophy that Cheryl just outlined. I like to characterize that as kind of two sides of the same coin. So on the one hand, we want this challenging, personalized curriculum to prepare students to achieve their dreams and thrive in what is an unknown future. And we'll talk a little bit about that, but we also want to do that in the context of a warm and inclusive community that feels almost like a family. And we have a lot of ways that we try and support that goal as well, and create the ecosystem so that when students fail, they have the opportunity to rebound and to learn from their mistakes, which are inevitable at this age. So that future readiness you'll see in the form of a highly relevant, personalized curriculum. And then all of those elements of community. You see a picture here of one of our house days. There are lots of ways where we make a pretty big middle school feel a little bit smaller. House is one of them. So your child will be placed in one of 4 houses that are 6 through 8. So you get to see the 6th and 8th graders interacting and some fun house challenges. We'll have days where they wear their house shirts, which we'll explain when we get a little closer to uniforms and all of that later in the transition period. But really fun. We also have advisory, which we'll speak to a little bit later on. Just these ways that we try and make a big school feel a little small and a little more welcoming for everyone. A few pictures here just that are emblematic of the middle school experience for students. Cheryl talked a little bit about students pursuing passions. Sometimes those are passions that they don't even know that they have yet. And that's the whole idea, that we give them a well-rounded curriculum that allows them to explore what's good about themselves, what they might be interested in the future, some new challenges. Maybe a student didn't know they would like robotics or coding, but we give them a little taste of it and see. I always think about my experience and never having the chance to pursue drama, for example. And I think I would have loved it. It just never occurred to me to take that class. So we make sure everyone has that experience. You see our makerspace kids here making their skateboards during one of our pursuits last year. Some really excellent work done. And really what one of our main goals is just to bring out the best in students. We also want to break down the kind of metaphorical and literal walls of the classroom. We know that learning it sticks more and it's more meaningful when students see its relevance to the real world. So you see students in the garden, you'll see them outside in lots of ways, and getting outside. We have our grade 8s preparing for Summit for Success later in this semester, where they meet with community leaders. We know that learning is highly social at this time. And so building an environment where students can interact with each other, even if they're not best friends or part of the same clique or part of the having sleepovers every weekend. We try and foster that sense of community and compassion for each other and understanding. We also try and impress upon them that they have something to give the world. It's really important at this age. This is a photo from Nepal and Week Without Walls. And this year we weren't able to go forward with Week Without Walls. We tried to emulate it in various ways, but we hope to bring that back. But we just met yesterday with some of our student leaders about some of their service ideas that they have to give back to the community. That's really a cornerstone of the middle school experience, is learning, what do I have to give? And not just, sometimes growing up when you're little, people are doing things for you. And now this is a great age to think, okay, what do I have to offer? What could I give back? And that happens within our walls as well. We don't have to go to Nepal for that. You see students supporting our Staff Appreciation Day last year, and then that sense of fun is also so critical. All of that has to be in the context of a fun and vibrant school community, and feel where the sixth graders feel like they could go to the eighth graders if they were lost or needed help, and new students feel welcomed by the students who have been here for a while. So yeah, so fun is a cornerstone as well of our middle school experience, and we hope that if you've had middle school students come through, that they would agree with that statement. This is a quote that I think is really it's something we think about when we hire teachers and when we have meetings with teachers and develop our own faculty. Just give you a moment to read it. And so if we're going to challenge students at this age, we need to provide them with adult advocates who are in their corner, who are going to support them when they face challenging situations, whether those challenges are academic or whether they're having to do with friendship dynamics, or whether they have to do with a mistake they made and need to make up for. They need to have trusted adults that are supporting them along the way. And so this is one of our most important data points. This is from a student survey where we ask every year if students could name a trusted adult that they could go to if they were dealing with a problem or having to navigate a serious challenge. And I think it's a good thing that we can say that 90% of our students roughly can think of at least one adult advocate within the school, a trusted adult they could go to. Many more have those trusted adults outside of school, which is great, but we want to get to 100 as well. And so we have programming in place, and that's what our team meetings are largely about, is how do we make sure that we provide a trusted adult for each child in our school. So just a little scenario, and this is where maybe middle school, much of what I've said is also, you can see crossover with elementary school, and we know our peers in the elementary school do a great job of developing those student profile attributes and making our mission come to life. But there are some differences in the middle school in terms of your role as well in supporting that growth. So I have a little scenario here. I'll give you a chance to read, and just like Cheryl said, if you have someone you're talking with or sitting next to right now, talk through how you would handle this scenario. If you aren't, then you can just imagine how you would, or talk to yourself if you feel comfortable with that. And then think about some of the ways that you would handle this with your middle school child next year. And I checked, we don't have any Henrys or Miss Joneses, so this isn't a real situation, but these are situations that sometimes we confront in the middle school. The big thing here that we would impress upon you is to play the role of the coach. Students are, I think, up until this point, really used to parents kind of playing liaison between the school and them, and maybe not, and maybe you have really prepped your Henry or Henrietta or whoever your child is to have conversations with adults. But the first thing we'd like you to do in this situation is to be a good listener and coach your child, to self-advocate. We want students to take agency over their own learning experience and their own relationships. So that might involve role playing. How could you talk to Miss Jones to have him, express his feelings? Maybe he could see his counselor for coaching as well. A great resource to talk about what their counseling, what that conversation could look like. And then you might even, say, hey, Miss Jones, I talked to Henry. He's having some challenges. I asked him to come see you. Just wanted to give you a heads up. And then Miss Jones will know that, that's a conversation we often have in middle school with students. And so if the problem is unresolved, then it's totally fine for you to reach out to the teacher to seek some understanding, or reach out to me or Miss Gruber to help, to be present and have a kind of mediation. But first, that we find that about 90% of the times students can have these conversations on their own, and what an important life skill that we develop in our students at this age to self-advocate. So some tips for parent-teacher communication in the middle school: always presume positive intentions. We're all on the same team. All of our teachers, we hire for this, we develop for this. They care deeply about your children. Invite teacher feedback. So have that open line of communication where you can talk about the challenges and also the positive things that are happening. When you have, everybody feels passionately about their children and they care deeply. And they see a child come home upset and they want to do something about it. Just wait a moment or a day before hitting send on any emails, because we know when we're operating from that space, sometimes we say things that lack perspective. So, and we ask everyone in our community to do that. And give your child a voice. It's really them who owns their experience. And we really do ask that you first start with empowering them to navigate those difficult challenges, whether that's a faculty member or whether it's a peer or anyone in the school community. And allow space for struggle. I know, as the father of a 2-year-old, the only way he's going to learn to climb the ladder is if you give him a chance to struggle with it a little bit. And the same is true in middle school. Students need to feel a little bit of struggle before they can experience success. And that holds true in the classroom, whether we're talking about algebra or quadratic equations, and it also holds true of interpersonal relationships. And always remember, when an idea comes home, the truth usually lies between 2 different perceptions, and that everybody's perceptions is valid. And we keep that in mind as well as educators. It's really important. So I'll turn it over now to Jason Roach, who's our grade 6 team leader, who will explain a little bit about the particulars of the grade 6 program.
Hi, parents. As Corey said, I'm Jason Roach. I'm the middle school librarian. Actually, I've been more or less the grade 5 librarian this year as well. So I see your children every day in the elementary library around the middle of the day, and then run back up to my grade 6 advisory group. I'll talk a little bit more about that. So with respect to the goals of the middle school program in general, but in particular grade 6, Corey really did cover a lot of them, so I will try to give you a little insight into what the structure looks like that we have in place to help for those things. So, as Corey said, independence and responsibility is something it's key to kids developing and being successful middle school and then high school and then university students and professionals and adults. And we have very candid conversations with them about that. And a lot of that does happen in advisory, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But as Corey said, we really want and we really stress having your children reach out and ask for help, ask questions, ask for clarification, be comfortable doing that with all of their teachers and their advisor. And we do a lot of structured activities where we have them practice sending some emails, and we certainly do a lot of work helping them get organized and learning to manage their time using kitabs, which are paper journals, and then digital organizational tools, and navigating the schedule of middle school. We know that the middle school schedule is one that kids can look at initially and have their jaw drop a little bit. We'll show you the schedule in a minute. It probably may induce a few jaw drops from you as well. But as we said to them a couple of weeks ago, and I've said to them in the library, it's not something that middle school students keep worrying about or keep thinking about for very long. But we really do. We want kids to advocate for themselves. We want them to learn the required ingredients for them to succeed and to thrive. And that really involves taking some ownership of their own learning and of their own uncertainties or anxieties. And advisory is a place that we really try to do that. That's where we work on especially the sense of belonging in an environment where kids are moving around from class to class rather than spending the majority of their time with a core group of 20 or so kids in a grade 5 class, or grade 4 class, or grade 3 class. So we know that's a shift, and we know that a big part of our work early in the year especially is to provide support for the kids that are making that shift, and then ongoing structures to help them succeed. So with respect to advisory, I think that's what we've got on the next slide. Yep. So those are some of that's the majority of the middle school teachers who are grade 6 advisors. Most of them all of them teach grade 6 students. Some of them have some cross-grade teaching schedules as well, but I'm also a grade 6 advisor. So your child will probably have several of those teachers for some of their classes, whether it's music or math or language arts or social studies or something else. And they'll also have one of those teachers, or there'll be one or more, I'm sure, as their advisor. And advisory is a really important part of the middle school program, especially so for grade 6. That's a small group, not a class size group, but about a half class size group, so 10 or 11 kids, where we spend the year together. And depending on exactly what our schedule looks like next year, it may be that we spend the first 10 or 15 minutes of the day together. That's the model we've had in the past, as well as longer periods of time together on Sundays and Thursdays, beginning and the end of the week. This year, on a slightly different schedule, we're spending the majority of our midday together for lunch and some recess breaks and advisory activities. But those are the 3 core goals of advisory. We reimagined our advisory program several years ago to focus on those 3 goals, and we've been continuing to build it out and grow and support it throughout. And advisory is really a big part of middle school. The students who are in an advisory group, that's a non-academic trusted adult where they are not feeling any pressure to succeed in a particular area with work or with timelines or deadlines. And so it's just a place they can feel free to ask questions and get to know another core group of students and build some friendships and relationship and develop a lot of the skills that Corey was talking about. And those very much are kids, my advisory students from 3 and 4 years ago who are in grade 9 and 10 now, those are still my kids. Those are kids that I see, across the field or with a high school class or something, and stop and badger them about what they're doing and how things are going and what they're, whether it's sports or travel or photography or whatever their thing has come to be. Those are definitely still my kids. So there on the schedule, you see this year, the midday is where we are meeting for advisory. This is our in-person schedule, our blended learning 80-20 schedule that we're in this year. So it may look, the exact configuration will look a little bit different next year, but all those colors won't. It's an 8-day rotation. Your kids are on a 6-day rotation right now. And they tend to look at this and go, whoa, what? But they won't for long. It's odd and even days. And on day 1, block 1 comes first. On day 4, block 4 comes first. They'll figure this out quite quickly, and we'll support them in it, moving from class to class and making their way around. So good there. And yep, I think Cheryl's going to talk about the scope of the course selection and that work that's coming up. So good to see you all, and we'll certainly see you all next year as well.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, and so what fills that day of all those blocks, the 8 different course blocks? We have our core courses, and we call them core courses, not because they're more important, but just because those are the classes that every middle school student takes. And again, this is where they are going from teacher to teacher. So very different than the elementary experience. As Jason said, and I'm sure that schedule looks very overwhelming at first, and then it becomes just old hat very quickly. And also we have plenty of adults around to help students know this is the next block you go to. We have them up on the screens each day with the schedule. So it isn't something anybody needs to memorize. I have lots of guides throughout the whole school year. So every student does take English Language Arts 6, Math 6, Science 6, Social Studies 6, and PE and Health for grade 6. There is a world language choice, which Ms. Lajoie will be talking about in a little bit. That will be very different for middle school. And also we begin music, and so that's very exciting as well. So your children do have a couple of choices in their schedule. And then in the grade 6, we have the Explorer Wheel, where every student has 1 quarter of art, of drama, of dance, and of design and innovation. And the reason that we do that in grade 6 is so that every student at ASD does have the ability to be exposed to all of those electives. And then in grade 7 and 8, they can choose if they want to go a little bit deeper into one of those areas with a semester course. So again, the Explorer Wheel is another requirement for all grade 6 students. And it's just fun. It's fun for them to try something out for a quarter. And so where can you find this? I hope you all by now are familiar with our new website and with ASD Connect. And so we do have our middle school course catalog is on the web. This is all in a screencast that will be coming to you shortly after this webinar with links and lots of information. And I'm sure many of you have already been exploring the website with the middle school. So how do you get to this particular page? Once you're on the main website, you just scroll down on the first page, you go to the middle school box there and you click on it. And that will take you to our middle school page. You'll see on the right side there, you'll have that menu for the middle school course catalog. When you click onto that, it'll take you right to the course catalog. So just keep looking for middle school on the website. And then for some things, you do need to actually log in because with your family account, you can log in to ASD Connect and you'll be able to find all your course information there. So just a few highlights. Like we said, it is the first year that your children will have the opportunity to take music as a class, which is super exciting. And I know that they've already been visited by our middle school music teachers, so they're probably already talking about this at home. Might they choose band? We have a grade 6 through 12 band program at ASD, and it is tailored for beginners. They can rent instruments. I also wanted to point out, just in case you're wondering, the photos we've been showing this morning are all pre-coronavirus. Don't worry, the middle school is not on its own plan. We do have masks and students would never be this close this year, but I think we all have such a hard time even now showing pictures of kids with masks on that we tend to take some from the archives that are a little bit older so we can show what we hope things look like soon. We also have a strings program, which is right now just in the middle school. There is a vision to expand that into high school. And so hopefully by the time your children are in grade 8, they would be able to pursue that into high school, we'll see. And it is for beginners to advanced students, rentals available as well. And then choir, also a 6 through 12 program. And we do have a lot of singers here. You do see a few masks there. And so we're doing a lot of spacing. As you can tell, we had to really think about how we were organizing our choir program this year. All right, so with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Lajoie, who will tell you a little bit more about how languages work in the middle school.
Good morning, everybody. So my name is Sherry Lajoie, and I'm the Director of Language. And I would like to share with you the wonderful language program in middle school. So middle school offers the opportunity for students to add an additional language to their toolkit, and that helps them to build those attributes of the student profile that you had the opportunity to unpack a little earlier. And I'm thinking particularly of the attributes of self-awareness, empathy, communicators, and global citizens with intercultural competence. So in 3 years of language study at middle school, students can move from complete beginner, from the novice level, to a level of proficiency where they can participate in conversations on familiar topics using sentences and series of sentences. And they should be able to handle short social interactions, ask and answer a variety of questions about themselves and in everyday life. And that would be the intermediate mid-level after 3 years of study. So during elementary school, our students have had the opportunity to learn Arabic. And students, I just need to get my mouse back. Students who are Emirati or who are Arab passport holders or GCC passport holders, or those who have a significant amount of Arabic spoken at home, used at home, who are currently in native 5, grade 5 native Arabic, will continue in Arabic language arts in grade 6. And we have realigned all of our native Arabic courses and to align them with the Ministry of Education's requirements. And we are calling them Arabic language arts because they're taught very similarly to English language arts. So if you would like more information on the Arabic Language Arts program, I'd like to refer you to a Talk Tuesday that we hosted in December 8th, I believe. So if you are not in Arabic Language Arts, all of the students will have the opportunity to choose Arabic, French, or Spanish as a world language in grade 6. And all of our world language courses are based on the American Council of Teachers of Foreign Language Standards and that identify progressive levels of proficiency. So earlier I mentioned novice to intermediate mid levels. If students are currently in Arabic world language in grade 5 and would like to continue in Arabic world language in grade 6, they'll be placed at a middle school level that, according to the proficiency that they're demonstrating right now in grade 5. If your child is choosing the French or Spanish and they have no experience with French or Spanish, they will be automatically placed in novice high in grade 6. If they already have some experience in that language, they may be from home, from prior schooling, and they want to continue to develop their French or their Spanish, they will be invited to, and if they choose this option, we'll put them through a placement process so we can determine which level we are at. So we have increased our offerings for next year in French and Spanish so that we're better able to handle students who are coming into ASD or coming in from grade 5 who have already some familiarity with the language. But it's still a world language program. So if French is like your mother tongue or Spanish is your mother tongue, we don't have the capacity at this time to serve students like in teaching French or Spanish as a mother tongue. So that's why we will go through a placement process to determine how we can best meet the needs of the children. And so depending on the results of the placement process, counselors will be able to advise students of the options that they have in terms of their language choices for middle school. I also wanted to note that if students are in Arabic language arts and continue in Arabic language arts in grades 6, 7, and 8, in grades 7 and 8, they'll have the opportunity to take French or Spanish, to request an elective of French or Spanish. And like all electives, they may or may not get the elective depending on the scheduling at that time. So, but if that's not available to them for scheduling reasons or other reasons, then again in grade 9, we offer French and Spanish and Arabic from novice level and from next year up to advanced level. So we have a lot of options for students to develop their proficiencies in French and Spanish and Arabic. And if there are any further questions, please reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. I just wanted to also note, I'd mentioned the website and ASD Connect before. If you have been scrolling around on that, you might have found the middle school parent and student handbook and noticed it said 1920, or excuse me, 2020. And I think, you know, obviously that is not the school year we're in. Because of COVID, the handbook didn't get completely updated this year, but I think you can still use it as a guide, and you'll find that most of the things that you find in the handbook are still relevant. We will be updating that for next year. So again, on ASD Connect, where you do need to log in, you'd be able to find on the middle school page the handbook there. So for some of you that are quite keen, or your children are quite keen, saying, oh my gosh, tell me more about middle school, this is a really great place to start. So some of those questions that you have before you reach out to other people or calling the office, you might want to just take a quick look in the handbook and see if you can find that answer there. And again, it is a fun resource for you to be looking at with your child at this point, helping them to get excited about middle school. And I will hand it over to Heather McNeil-Roy for some information about technology.
Hi there. So I am Heather Roy, and I am the Academic Technology Coordinator from kindergarten up to grade 12. And today I'm just going to talk to you briefly about being ready for technology use here in the middle school. As you are aware, in middle school, students will be purchasing their own device, which they'll be bringing to the school, and it will travel back and forth every single day. We are in the process of reviewing this right now and looking at our specifications. So you may go to the website and see that there is a list of what needs to be purchased. This is for reference for 2021. So please stay posted, and we will put up additional information about the specifications. But what is important to understand is that when we do post those specifications, that is what's required by all families. So please don't purchase anything early yet. Hang in there, and we promise we'll have some information for you shortly so that you have a clear guide about what we need you to purchase for your child. So you are aware as well, because they are having their own device, one of the things that we focus on in middle school is helping our students learn with technology, helping them manage how they use their device, helping them regulate their time and develop strategies. And those are things that will happen in advisory as well as throughout their other subjects. Your child will also be transitioning from using Seesaw as their learning management system into some of our other tools, including Google Classroom. And we are also looking at some other learning management systems, which we will be, of course, sharing with you when that information comes available. And finally, just so you're aware as well, that ASD has been meeting those needs of flexible learning. And so we are prepared no matter where or when or how we have to learn, that our technology systems are set up to be able to support your child either remotely or on campus. And so we look forward to speaking to you again later in the year with more specifics for you about the exciting device that your child will be getting and ready for using technology here in the middle school.
Good morning. My name is Bertha Knox, and I'm the counselor who will work with grade 6 students next year. And as Ms. Gruber mentioned earlier, in middle school, the counselors move up to the next grade with their students, which I think is really good because we already know the students and we help them to get to know their teachers and their teachers to get to know them. Middle school. What we know and understand about the typical 6th grader and middle schooler is that this is a time period of transition. And it's a period of rapid growth and developmental changes. And I guess the onset and the pace of those, like physical, the emotional, intellectual, and social developmental changes, they differ from like young person to young person. But what we know is that students are looking to answer questions about their identity. Who are they and who do they want to become? And in this next slide, it's going to take a peek at some of the indicators of like a typical 6th grader and where they're going. The typical 6th grader is transitioning to adolescence. Okay, you can breathe, parents, you can breathe. Because adolescence is like that in-between place. They're no longer like the little babies that you brought home from the hospital that you were cooing over and like you just smiled with everything that they did, right? But they're also not young adults yet. So from a developmental standpoint, middle school is like a place of building and developing and strengthening skills. And those skills are to like help them navigate through life and to go through like growth experiences in a healthy and in a productive way. How can you help as a parent? Okay, so consider that your young person is growing from that little child that I mentioned earlier, who basically depended on you to manage like almost every aspect of their lives. You know, you manage their play dates, you manage their homework, you manage like so many different areas of their lives, right? But now they're making this transition into adolescence. And as the student goes through those developmental changes, your role as a parent is also changing. I like to say that parents kind of move from the role of a manager to an age-appropriate consultant. Knowing that your young child is developing the skills that are going to make he or she like a healthy and a productive young adult. Your child is not only moving from childhood to adolescence, but they're also growing and transitioning from elementary school to middle school. So let's kind of look at one of the beginning tasks that's very important in making that transition from elementary to middle school. Course registration. So in the coming weeks and in the coming months, we're going to work together. So in transitioning from grade 5 to middle school, the course registration process is like one of the beginning tasks. Because at the end of that process, we're going to have a schedule. And I think Mr. Roche mentioned the schedule and talked about it a bit earlier. Your child will have an individual schedule that he or she will use to navigate from class to class throughout the day, right? And so creating that schedule is going to be massively important. And it begins with completing the course registration process, yeah? And this is like a copy of the grade 6 course registration form. You're going to get this today through your ASD family account. And with it, you're going to receive a screencast, as Ms. Gruber mentioned earlier. And that screencast is going to give you like step-by-step instructions on how to complete the form. The screencast is important because you'll be able to stop it and rewind it, and you can watch it as much and as often as you'd like to help you complete the form properly. Okay, so Ms. Gruber talked about the core courses, and with those core courses, they're listed also in the course registration form. We do admonish students and parents to review the course catalog because they have like a description of the courses that your child will be taking in grade 6. On the course registration form, some sections require some action and some sections do not. The core courses section, all of the grade 6 students will take those courses, which Ms. Gruber mentioned earlier. So no action is required. And similarly, the Explorer Wheel courses, no action is required. The World Language section and the Music Options section, both of those require action. And so your student or your child will be making a selection in both of those sections. The screencast you'll get later today is going to give you detailed instructions on how to complete both of those 2 sections. Okay, so in this portion of the form, I need you to answer the line section according to your child's world language choice. And then near the bottom, your child's first and last name, you're going to be printing that, and then you're going to also denote your child's grade 5 homeroom teacher. The form is a fillable form. We wanted to make it easier for everyone. Please make sure that you sign it before you electronically submit the form. And again, the screencast is going to have so much information about how to complete the form. But if you have additional questions in regards to that, please reach out to me in the middle school office and I'll help guide you through that. But trust me, the screencast will give you a wealth of information in completing the form. The forms are due on or before March 21st, but as soon as you complete it, please submit it. You don't have to wait until the 21st. That's the deadline date. But as soon as you're done with it and you feel comfortable, please follow the instructions in the screencast to be able to submit it electronically appropriately. This is just a few reminders. I will say to please review the course catalog. And with parent guidance, of course, it is quite appropriate for middle schoolers to select their own elective courses according to their individual interests and passions. We really do want students to be involved in the process and allowing them to take an active part in this process. Right, this is a supportive process, so we don't want you or your child to feel any pressure. And the bulk of the information that you're going to need will be contained in the screencast. I'll also be visiting the grade 5 homeroom classes, and that's my opportunity. I've spoken with them already, but that homeroom visit will be my opportunity to get to know them a little bit more and for them to get to know me. They're also going to have something called the Step Up Day, which is basically an introduction to the grade 6 teachers and a Q&A session with those teachers. This is part, you can think of it as like, this event is part of a bigger and larger transitional program that we're putting your students through so that they're able to make that transition from elementary school to middle school and feel comfortable and very excited about the process. Yeah. I so look forward to working with you and your child in grade 6 and in middle school. And it has been my great pleasure to share this time and to share this space with you. And you guys have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Knox. As you can tell, your children will be well cared for in middle school, already starting to be well cared for in grade 6. Again, just to put a couple of emails out there, any registration questions whatsoever, counseling related questions, please email MS Counseling. It will get to Ms. Knox. The right person will be able to address your questions. And any other middle school related questions, things you might find in the handbook or just questions about information you heard this morning that aren't related to course registration specifically, please go ahead and email Diala at the MS office email address. And again, she will direct your questions to the appropriate people. Although she is such an expert, I'm sure she would be able to answer all of your questions on her own as well. So again, those are 2 great emails to keep in mind as you're going forward. And so we do have a bit of time for some questions. And I think right now we'll ask Dr. Willey will moderate for us, see what questions we have coming through, and we'll be able to answer your questions. And again, we do just thank you so much for being here this morning. So what do we have, Corey?
Yeah, so, well, first off, thanks for all that. And I also wanted to, one thing we neglected to mention is how much we appreciate the work of the grade 5 team and the elementary school team. We often find when students get to us, they already have a lot of these skills that we mentioned today and are very well prepared for middle school. So it really is a team effort, and really we forged that bridge very strongly between elementary and middle school. So thanks to the ES team as well. One question that was already posed, and please do add your questions to the Q&A box and we'll address them as we can. The one question was, is this going to be recorded and where will it be shared? And it is being recorded. We will share it via the ASD News and the Connect page, which you can access through the AS Dubai website. So that will be posted shortly after the presentation is complete today. One question, and I think this is a good one for Sherry, is will kids be able to do more languages on top of native Arabic?
So, sorry, in grade 6, no, because grade 6 is an exploratory program and there's no room in their schedule for an additional language on top. If you're in Arabic, is that if you're in Arabic language arts, I'm thinking, right? But in grade 7 and 8, that is a potential option, as students may choose French or Spanish as an elective. And if it fits into their schedule and we can make it work, then they will be able to take French or Spanish in grade 7 or 8, 7 and or 8.
Great. Thanks, Sherry. The next question is there a class, program, or curriculum on anatomy, the human body, and related developmental experiences going on with them during these times? And I can answer part of this, but feel free to chime in. We do have anatomy as part of our science curriculum, and we also have health courses that are integrated into our PE classes. That's something we're under a curriculum review right now, but those topics are broached in those sessions, and as needed, through our counseling curriculum as well. I don't know if anybody else wants to add context to that question.
I know at a portion of the school year, I coordinate with the PE health teachers to push into health classes and talk about their child's growing and developing brain and how that impacts them in decision-making and problem solving. And we take that delve together in their developing brain and what that looks like.
Thank you, Bertha. And uniform requirements question. So the handbook that Cheryl mentioned is a great place to look for those requirements. They're not too different than elementary, but there are some differences. This year we've been quite lax because students can't change for PE. So we do ask that they come in ASD clothing, but we allow them to kind of mix and match with their PE uniform because they're not allowed to use the locker rooms because of COVID protocols. I would say we're probably a little more firm on the uniform in the middle school. So just make sure you take a look. Sumeru, our provider, as well as Land's End, provide great options, and we've really worked with our students and our team to make sure that our uniform options are comfortable and attractive and of good quality. So take a look. There's actually a chart in the handbook that shows elementary and middle school and high school and how they might be a little bit different, but take a look at those and order those early. And if you like to use Land's End and you happen to be traveling to the US this summer, it can be cheaper to do it that way. So take a look. All the information's in the handbook. So just Sherry, just another question about world languages that I think you may have answered in your previous question, but maybe not necessarily relevant to Arabic. Can students take more than one world language is the question.
We have not ruled that out. I mean, it would be on a case-by-case basis. And again, it would be if it fit in their schedule. So we could consider that on a case-by-case basis.
But to be clear, in grade 6,
No, in grade 6, no, sorry. In grade 6, no.
And generally, we've only had that option for students who take Arabic language arts because that is such a different course. It's not really a world language in the truest sense. So, but we can, yeah, if you're approaching grade 7 and interested in that, reach out to Sherry and we can have a conversation and your child's counselor as well. Thanks, Sherry. Can a student choose to take French in grade 6 and then change to Arabic non-native in grade 7?
French in grade 6 and choose in Arabic in grade 7. So again, we're opening, because we are offering a wider range of language options, and we completely understand that when a child chooses the language when they're 10 or 11 years old, that you know, they don't necessarily can be locked into that language for 3 years. So we consider all of these requests again on a case-by-case basis. And because our classes are organized by language proficiency, so they're not grade 6 language classes, grade 7 language classes, grade 8. I mean, that may be how it turns out because of the levels that students are in when they enter the program. But there's a little more leeway for movement for, you know, grade 7 students to enter a novice high level. So these are issues or concerns or questions we would take up next year at this time if the student is not, you know, finding success in the language they chose for grade 6. We can, on a conversation case-by-case basis, discuss the options at that point.
Thanks, Sherry. Question about PE and the PE program for grade 6. It has looked a little bit different this year because of COVID protocols. One emphasis of our program has been to really emphasize the physical movement component because students, as we know, are staring at a glowing rectangle for much of their day. So we try and make sure that we prioritize their you know, physical activity, but normally we have a health pull-out lesson. So we'll stop PE and have health and have mini units several times throughout the year. This year, I know they've been doing volleyball, they've been doing ultimate frisbee, and some of the kind of easier to socially distance sports. And we started actually with, you know, table tennis and some of those that were really easy and have built up. But we use a set of standards called the SHAPE standards, and those are the same ones that are used in most US-based and other international schools, many other American international schools around the world. And we've just actually, we are completing a curriculum review and kind of breathing some life into those standards. So if you'd like more information, just reach out and I can connect you with Mr. Thomas Lambert, who's the department chair of middle school PE.
I want to jump in there too. One of the things that we talk about in advisory with kids early on in their middle school experience in grade 6 is getting involved in a variety of things at school, and athletics is one of those things. So we have a terrific PE program, but there's also COVID protocol allowing a huge range of sporting activities, both organized competitive sports, 8th grade, junior Falcons, some dedicated grade 6 teams, as well as more intramural kind of organized ones, lunchtime tournaments, a variety of things. So ASD as a whole has terrific athletics. The middle school is certainly a standout there. And that's a great thing for your kids to get involved in, as well as all the other terrific service learning opportunities and visual and performing arts opportunities. So we tend to say to kids and parents that most of those students who thrive in middle school have found a few things, some of them surprising to themselves, some of them things they know are their things. And so we'll definitely be encouraging your kids to take a few chances and try some new things so they don't miss out on drama like Mr. Willey.
Thank you, Jason. And yeah, thank you, everybody. I see we've got a couple more questions coming in, but we are really reaching the end of our time. So I just want to thank everybody so much. And if you still do have outstanding questions, as Ms. Knox said, we will be having more interactions with your children. And there are plenty of opportunities for you to reach out to any of us. We're happy to take phone calls, to set up individual Google Meets with people if you would like some more information. And again, if you are completely lost and you have no idea, just contact the elementary school office and they will direct you to us. We're here. And so I just wanted to thank everybody again. Dr. Willey, were there any last words that you wanted to say before we sign off?
No, that's it. Thanks for everything. I'll answer to a couple of these other questions via chat. More information will be coming out about technology and computer specs and all of that. And the handbook has a great section on our homework approach if you'd like to review that. And if you have questions, again, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you in the middle. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.